In this video, I wanted to go over the Chapter 4 challenge exercises that I had posted. So hopefully you had a chance to look at those, potentially try them on your own. We'll walk through the solutions to those that exercise in this video. So Smithson Inc. produces two types of gas grills, a family model and a deluxe model. Smithson's controller has decided to use a plant-wide overhead rate based on direct labor hours. The president of the company recently heard of activity-based costing and wants to see how the results would differ if this system were used. Two activity cost pools were developed, machining and machine setup. Presented below is the information related to the company's operations. So for direct labor hours, or direct labor costs, direct labor costs, the family model incurs $75,000, the deluxe model twice that at $150,000. Machine hours, both model takes 2,000 machine hours. Setup hours, family model is only 200 hours for setup, deluxe model is 800. Total estimated overhead costs are $450,000. Overhead cost allocated to the machining activity cost pool is $270,000 and $180,000 is allocated to the machine setup activity cost pool. So based on this information, we're going to compute the overhead rate using the traditional or plant-wide approach. Then we'll compute the overhead rates using the activity-based costing approach and determine the difference in allocation between the two approaches. So the first one, compute the overhead rate using the traditional plant-wide approach. Typically we use a driver such as direct labor costs or hours. We don't have direct labor costs, so we're going to use direct labor. We don't have direct labor hours. We're going to use direct labor costs. So we take the total overhead, $450,000, divided by the total direct labor costs, which we get by adding the family model and the deluxe model, the $75,000 plus the $150,000. So the 450 divided by 225, it's $2 per overhead per dollar of direct labor cost. So every direct labor cost you have $2 of overhead. Now if we use the activity-based costing, it's the same concept that we're dividing overhead costs by a driver, but hopefully we're getting more finite with our data and choosing a driver that more correlates with what is driving the costs. So the two cost pools that we have, machine hours and setup hours, we said machining, it's $270,000. It's 2,000 hours for family, 2,000 for deluxe, 4,000 total. So we'll take that 270 divided by 4,000. And then setup hours, $180,000 of overhead is allocated. We have 1,000 setup hours, so 180,000 divided by 1,000 is 180 hours, $180 per hour. Machining, when we do that math, it's $67.50 per hour. Now, if we determine the difference in allocation between the two approaches, the traditional, we're going to take the $2 per direct labor dollar and just use that to apply. So that looks like this. The family model has $75,000 of direct labor cost. So we multiply that by $2 to get $150,000 of overhead assigned to the family model. The deluxe model, $150,000 of direct labor costs, $2 per direct labor dollar, $300,000 allocated to the deluxe model. So we took our $450,000 and broke it up this way. When we do the ABC method, similar again, we're going to take the rates we developed in the previous slide, the $67.50 for machine hours and the $180 an hour for setup, and apply it to the usage for the two models. So the family model used 2,000 hours of machine time at $67.50, and they had 200 hours of setup at $180 per hour. where the deluxe model had, again, 2,000 hours of machine time, 800 hours of setup. So they're going to get a little bit more because of the setup. So here's how that looks. Family model, 2,000 hours of machine hours times 6750 is 135. 200 hours of setup at 180 is 36,000. We add those two together to get the total overhead for that model, 171,000. On the deluxe model, 2,000 hours of machine time times the 6750, so again 135. 800 hours of setup at $180 per hour is 144,000. So when we add those together, it's $279,000. Now we can compare the two methods. So using ABC costing, the deluxe model gets $21,000 less in overhead allocation than it does under the traditional system. So traditional, we would have said $300,000 for the deluxe model. Under the ABC, the deluxe model only gets $279,000 of overhead, so $21,000 less. Under ABC, family model is getting $21,000 more in overhead allocation. So it went from 150 under the traditional to 171 under the ABC method. So this difference could impact pricing decisions, the profitability of each model. It may determine how the factory is run differently. So if we're assuming that the machine hours and the setup hours are more kind of directional in how the costs are incurred, then that's a better way to do it, and you're going to get better data for the overhead allocation. Again, it's still an allocation. We're still estimating some stuff, but if we're getting closer to what's driving the cost, then we're going to get better data out of that and make better decisions. Now they decided to implement that. It was quite successful. However, the controller is wondering if instead of only 2 activity cost pools, they should expand to 3 activity cost pools based on the following. So we have the same direct labor costs, same machine hours, same setup hours, but now we're introducing packaging hours. So 50 for the family model, 75 for the deluxe. With another cost pool, having 3 instead of 2, we have to divide up our $450,000 of overhead differently. So we're not creating additional costs, we're not eliminating costs, we're taking that $450,000 in all 3 scenarios that we looked at. It's the same $450,000, we're just dividing it up differently. So now we're saying machining is $240,000 of overhead, machine setup is $170,000, and packaging is $40,000. So we determine the overhead rates using the activity-based costing approach with the 3 cost pools, and then calculate the overhead allocation for the 2 models, and then look at the difference between this using 3 pools and what we just did using 2 pools and see if it's worth doing that. Okay, so the same thing we did before, we take the total cost of the pool divided by the usage. So for machining, $240,000 divided by 4,000 hours will get us a rate. Setup hours, now 170,000 divided by 1,000 hours, and then packaging, the $40,000 divided by 125 hours. And here's our new rates. So machining is $60 per hour, machine setup is $170 per hour, and packaging is $320 per hour. Now if we use this data, these rates, and apply them to our expected usage for the different models, we can get the overhead allocation for the 2 models. So simply take those rates times the hours. So machine hours, 2,000 for each. Again, now at $60, $120,000. Setup hours, family model is 200 hours at 170, the new rate, 34,000. Packaging is 50 hours times $320 per hour, 16,000. Total overhead, if we add those 3 together, is $170,000. Under the deluxe model, Again, 2,000 hours of machine time at $60 an hour is 120,000. 800 hours of setup time at $170 per hour is 136. Packaging is 75 hours at $320 per hour is 24,000. We add those together and we get $280,000 applied to the family model for overhead. So now we look at doing this with 3 models. We've introduced a new labor cost pool or an activity cost pool. We have to track those hours. We have to apply the rates. So there's a lot more work involved. It's a little bit more complicated and to manage. But is it worth it? Is it getting us any better data? So if we look at this, the family model is 170. Deluxe model is 280. If we go back a little bit to the way we did it with just the 2 cost pools, machine hours and setup, and not enter in the packaging hours, we have 171 for family model, so they lose $1,000. The deluxe model is $279,000, and now under the 3, with the 3 buckets, it's 280, so they have $1,000. So we just moved $1,000 from the family model to the deluxe model. In my perspective, we've introduced a lot more complexity by having that 3rd cost pool. We have another activity to manage and track in packaging hours, and it doesn't really give us better data necessarily. That $1,000 plus or minus isn't probably going to make a big difference in any decisions we make. And if we are that close when we do actuals, and we'll talk about variance to these rates. We talked about a little bit. We'll talk about it more again in some other chapters. If we're that close, and either way, we're doing a really good job. So these are estimates again. We estimated the total overhead, we're estimating the usage going in to set the rate. So there's a lot of estimates, and to add that extra cost pool and that extra complexity for $1,000 isn't really worth it in my mind. So I hope this helps. In the Word document with this challenge exercise, there's also another problem or set that you can go through to work on your own, and I can, if you're interested in the answers to that, let me know and I can send it out. But I just wanted to go through another example of looking at the traditional system versus the ABC and the steps we have to go through to get the overhead allocated to the different product lines. Please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.